Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Hi, and welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. My guest is Sophora Acheson. She serves as the executive director and co-president of Ruby's Place. This is a leading nonprofit organization dedicated to ending domestic violence, human trafficking, and violent crime through hope, advocacy, and connection. Under her leadership, Ruby's Place has expanded its services and outreach, notably opening the first human trafficking shelter in the U.S. for men, addressing the often overlooked population of male survivors. So that in itself is cool too, because I do know that there are many male survivors as well. So thank you
Yes.
for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Is there anything about your bio that you would like to expound upon before I ask you other questions?
I think it's important to note in this work that I also have lived experience. I'm a survivor myself, and I come using that lens as well as the lens of leadership. And I am also a licensed marriage and family therapist, so I also come with a mental health lens as well.
I truly believe all these lenses, even though there's pain usually and suffering around at least one of those.
Yeah.
I believe it's so important to the work because it just leads to so much more credibility because you know this walk from a personal and professional lens. Would you agree?
Yes. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. And you are willing to share about your personal trauma story, maybe without super detail because we don't want to necessarily trigger
Yeah.
anyone. But is
Yeah.
there anything about that story that you're willing to share to help the audience understand a little more what your journey was like?
Yeah. So I think like many people who experience domestic violence, mine started in the household, witnessing it as a child and experiencing it as a child. And it was really normalized to me, physical and emotional violence. And even though we intrinsically know that it doesn't feel good, that we're scared, those sorts of things, it does become part of kind of normal relationship dynamics as we're growing up and learning tool bag of how do we deal with conflict, how do we deal with the inner dynamics of relationships. And then later on, as I became a young adult, I found myself in a similar adult situation where the person that I was with was also physically and emotionally abusive as well. So I was repeating that pattern, which is that intergenerational transmission of trauma, really. And it wasn't until about 3 years into that relationship that something just shifted in me. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want something different. And I think there was a lot of things that led up to that. But I started the transition away from that relationship. And it was one of the hardest things that I've done in terms of unentwining. I don't think that's exactly a word, but I think it describes it of unentwining yourself from somebody and a relationship and dynamics and the whole logistics of having a life together that spanned over a couple of years. It really took me to fully disengage from this person and all of the things that we shared together. And since then, I have really been looking at my work through how do we really end domestic violence or interpersonal violence, and lots of thoughts around that. But I think that's really a 30,000-foot view of what led me there personally, and happy to expand on anything with that.
Oh, that was really beautiful. I think what is most helpful usually for my audience when they listen to other survivors and survivors slash experts is
Yeah.
what I get curious about, and I think my listeners as well, is how did you heal from this? I know it's a
Yeah.
process, but
Yeah.
and I know even starting Ruby's Place was probably part of that healing journey, but what else? What else was
Yeah.
part of that?
Oh gosh. There was a time at which I was sitting in our shelters. One of our largest shelters that we have is for women and children who are victims of domestic violence and human trafficking. And that's where I had a lot of the experience of direct service. So I was a overnight counselor and would see women and children come in throughout all the times of the day. And it was at that point that I really saw some of the same women coming in over and over again. And it was this repeated cycle. And then I started seeing women, different women come in with the same abuser. And it really got me thinking in my own healing journey, where was my father and my ex, who were both abusive to me? Were they in new relationships? Were they continuing their abusive behavior? And so that really dropped me into a lot of personal work around how do I deal with the fact that, yes, I may have escaped, but on a bigger level, this cycle still may be happening. And I think one of the things that really helped me along the healing journey is diving into that on a macro level. So that's where I started doing a lot of research on how are we actually helping the people that do harm. And now I want to say, before I talk a little bit more about that, working with people that do harm does not mean that we forgive the things that have been done to us, or that forgiveness means that we accept their behavior. If somebody said to me, "Hey, Sephora, do you want to work with your father? Do you want to work with your ex?" Absolutely not. And I'm still working through that. Healing from those relationships. And it's an ongoing process. I don't mean to be the typical therapist that says, oh, it's a healing journey and we'll always be on it, but it truly is. We get to look at the trauma and the wounds that we have with new awareness as we go through our healing journey. We kind of heal a layer of it, and then there's more growth that's happening, and there's more awareness that happens, and we get to kind of circle back around and look at those wounds again with a different viewpoint. And so, both professionally, really looking at all the different angles of how we work with domestic violence and ending it, and also personally accepting that I was going to continue to revisit these wounds, but at different layers and different viewpoints.
Yeah, very well said. And I'm guessing that you maybe went to therapy yourself to heal some of your wounds. And if so,
Yeah.
what modalities seem to be the most helpful?
Yeah. Full disclosure, I'm in therapy right now, and I'm currently doing IFS,
Mhm.
internal family systems. And that was a very intentional choice, as I really wanted to unpack some of the parts of me that were holding this trauma, and really work with the protectors that were protecting these parts and maybe not letting me get as deep as I wanted to in these healing journeys. So IFS has definitely been an amazing experience. EMDR has done wonders in terms of those PTSD symptoms and really getting my body out of survival mode. And I think that was really the first step for me, is I couldn't do any of the cognitive type of therapy, no CBT or really IFS, until I got my body and system regulated. And for me, I found that EMDR really worked the best.
Yeah, I love that you know what's working the best for you. I am myself an eclectic therapist. I do a little of this, a little of that.
Yeah.
And for those who, I think most people are familiar with EMDR that's listening because it's been around a minute. It's easy to find information about it. IFS is newer and doesn't is not
Yes.
evidence-based at this point yet. Do you
Yeah.
do you mind just educating just a tiny bit about what that is for people who may not know?
Yes,
Yeah.
I will do my best because there's definitely IFS experts out there. But
Yeah.
essentially, yeah, IFS looks at our internally we have a family system, meaning we have different parts of us. We often know the inner child. We talk a lot about the inner child. IFS really extrapolates on that in that we have different characters or different parts of us that play roles. And these roles or parts of us are born throughout experiences in our life, especially experiences of trauma. There's parts of us that are protectors. So they are really the ones that are standing guard, and they can show up in ways of anger, shutdown, care. They're really sending the alarm. And then we have the firefighters who come in and they're in and out pretty quickly. And they are the ones that are in charge of kind of those big, maybe extreme moves that we need to do to get ourselves out of the system or calm down. We have our managers. Managers, we know them usually because they're a bit of a critical voice, but they're the ones in charge. They're organizing, shuffling things around, making sure that we're a functional human being. And then we have exiles. And exiles are usually the parts of us that are holding the trauma. And because they are holding such big wounds, we often try to tuck them in corners or in simple words, we exile them because they're really hard to deal with. And so IFS looks at our internal family system as all of these parts that are really working to make sure that we are a full human being. And then in the work, we get to create a relationship with each of those parts so that at the end, the idea is that they're really integrated and working together. I hope that was a good explanation and I did it
Are
justice.
you reading the back of Dr. Schwartz's book? Because that was like way too good.
Thank
I
you.
think
I
I've had
appreciate it.
I think I've had experts on. You may not have done such a good job, honestly. So that was really good, honestly.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, so I want to switch gears a little bit to alternative type of therapies or modalities
Yes.
that are helpful in the healing journey. What of those, if any, have you used and benefited from?
Yes. Recently, I actually went on a what they call a retreat, but it was really intense spiritual work. And it
Hmm.
wasn't medication based. I know there's some out there with ayahuasca and different things, but I was really intentional that I did want to tap into that spirituality, but not in a medication based. And so I went to a women's home who has done this for 30 years, and she focuses and starts with breath work. But it's really based in a lot of the Eastern type of therapies. So we get into pretty deep meditation. We are accessing our heart chakra. We're really looking at vibrational frequencies and you as a spiritual being and how that actually layers on top of our biological system, like our thought processes and our emotional regulation and dysregulation. And that has been a whole new world that is open to me. And I'm currently exploring that journey, and I feel like I'm very novice in it, but I'm really working on getting my meditation practices down, checking in a lot with my heart center. How is my inner child doing today? And it's been a pretty awesome journey so far.
Oh, I love that so much. I'm glad I asked you that question. Um,
Yes,
I will get with you after the podcast about a resource that you may be interested in. I'm working on
great.
my healing certification now. Not healing,
Awesome.
energetic, and healing through
Oh, I
energy.
love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Okay.
I think you would
That's
enjoy
fun.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And also, I'll say this now, but you don't feel put on the spot. Okay. My next summit in October is finding energy after trauma. And I think your
I
story would be a
love
good fit.
that.
Yay. Okay.
Okay.
I'll get with you after that too. We might use
Okay.
this podcast to promote if you're okay with that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now let's shift a little bit because of time. I would love to hear more about Ruby's Place. I don't know. It's such important work, and I want you to know in our show notes we're going to have the link for the
Hmm.
donations added. What else? Tell me about how, inspired you other than your own trauma? Because
Yeah.
there's trauma survivors everywhere. Not everybody
Yeah.
is starting organizations like yours. So what is
Yeah.
it that inspires you to do this work? Yeah.
Yeah. I, as like cliche as it is, I have a heart tether to this work. And that tether from my being to this work, I think, has strengthened over the time. I don't think anybody wakes up and says, you know what I want to do when I grow up is work with domestic violence survivors. We don't even often know what that is. I happened to find this job at a very young age. I was looking for my first kind of grown-up job, and I thought that's interesting, and I have some experience in that. And what I found is the resilience of people who go through this type of trauma is so inspiring and motivational. And it has really kept me on my own healing journey because there has been times when I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, or I'm giving up on it,
Tires.
or yeah, or I'm just done, I guess I'm just going to be broken forever. And then I hear a story or I work with a client and I'm like, oh my gosh, they are pulling from this inner resilience that also mirrors to me that I have that as well. And so it really keeps me anchored to this work. And even to this day, I've been doing this for 14 years. Even to this day, it brings up a lot of emotion for me, happy and powerful and all of the things. And so I think it's hard to bring words to it, but that would be my answer around it.
Very beautiful. Any plans to write a book? I don't believe you have one yet. Any thoughts about that?
Thank you for asking. I am actually in the middle of writing a book right now. Yes, thank you. The working title right now is My Life Running with Scissors, as I feel like that's a good metaphor for when we have a trauma and we're trying to go through life. It's like running with scissors. It will be out spring of 2026. And I'm very excited. That has also been a whole new avenue of healing for me as well.
I'm going to add it now to my show notes for you. And what I will ask is once it's released, let us know and we'll add the link to Amazon when it's ready.
Perfect. Thank you.
What else I want to say about that? Oh, I actually offer to read books and write reviews for my podcast guests if they send me physical copy.
Great.
I don't do any more e-reading because I'm on computer too much, but I
Yes,
do that for my guests. So
I
reach
would
out if that's
love that.
awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else that you would like to hit upon today? I think you're a great speaker, by the way. I don't know if anyone's told
Thank
you
you.
that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Huh.
What else do I want to hit
What else
on
should I
today?
what else should
Yeah.
I ask you? I feel complete, but maybe you don't.
Yeah.
What would make you feel
Um,
complete?
I think just a couple sentences about Ruby's Place. I didn't inherit the organization from our founder. She was actually the woman who created the first domestic violence shelter in the country. And it was a very small organization, and we still have that shelter today. And now Ruby's Place is a national organization that is really tackling domestic violence and human trafficking across the nation. And it takes a village. It really does to make sure that these organizations not only stay up and running, but thrive and stay relevant in terms of what survivors need, what families need during that. So, yeah, just wanted to plug a little bit about Ruby's Place and the great work that the staff are doing there. And anybody who's interested, please check out the website.
And I have the donation link. I'm looking at that really quick to see if it's a direct link to the page or not too. Of course, my internet's a little slow. Is there also a number people should call if they're in trouble? Is there someone on staff that's available to do that?
We absolutely do have that. So we have a 24-hour crisis line, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They
Beautiful.
can call that. We also have a text line, and I'm going to get it for you in just a second. It is
Which one are you
188.
giving me first? Are they the
It,
same?
it is. This is the support
Okay.
line. So anybody can call this and get a live person. It's 1-888-339-7233.
888-339-7233.
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. So glad I asked that to add that to the show notes.
Yes.
Sephora, You are beautiful inside and out, and your name is
Thank
beautiful
you.
too. And I really appreciate you being a guest on our show today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.